Hey, this is Kennedy Copeland, and you are checking out the Three Count Podcast.
Well, by now, you would know. If you hear this kind of intro, that just means one thing. This is now entering 201, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do more efficiently. You can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering? You've seen their episode on here before, and if you haven't, you should probably pause this episode, go to Kennedy's episode, and go watch that one too. But she is here. She's again. I said this once. I said it twice. I've said it numerous times. She is the toughest woman in professional
Oh,
wrestling.
stop.
You can find
I
her
don't
at
know
the
about that.
wrestling. Oh, I 100% do. Again, I can vouch for. I have seen the pictures of you with like syringes in your mouth.
That's nothing. I'll do that
So
any
I go
day.
100%. Yeah, I go 100% be like, hey, those are things that I would not be doing myself. But
It's not so
no, no,
bad.
no. So she is the baddest woman here on the planet Earth. She is Kennedy Copeland.
Oh my God, I don't know if I can live up to all that.
So it's funny because so we met. So we actually had our first conversation here on the podcast, and then we met
hmm
at Invictus. Like it's like I felt it was like about a year later. We ran into each
Yeah,
other. It
we
might
were
have been
still trying to figure that out.
yeah, and then we just randomly would just like kind of cross paths. But then it was like a few months ago. Hold on, come here, being interrupted by my guest. Um, so yeah, McCoy has decided to join.
Hi. Oh
This is
God,
actually this will
my
be your
dogs just
debut
looked at
on Now
me.
Entering.
Oh, yep, I got the same
Nice.
things going on here. Yeah.
But yeah, so when we were talking at the Wrestling Open, it was back to talking about our love of our canines and our dogs and
mhm.
how much we care about them. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we got to catch up and talk more about all of our favorite moments with our dogs and stuff. And I think that's just kind of what brought the friendship back to full circle.
Yeah, I'm glad we had that encounter.
Yeah, so it was at the Wrestling Open what was it, last month now, I guess? Might have been just a few
Couple
weeks ago.
weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It all
It
blurs together now.
It really does, because it seems like every time you turn around, it's like there's like a new episode for like the Wrestling Open, but then it's like they're always like it just comes in bunches. I know they're getting ready to celebrate their 100th episode, so
mhm.
congratulations to them for that. But yeah, there's a lot. There's always
Yeah.
something always happening there. But no,
Oh yeah.
back
It's been
to
a
back to
whirlwind.
back to back to us. The rest, yeah. But it was because of the Open. Like we got to sit back and have a conversation, and then we're like, hey, yo, let's do a second episode where we get to talk about all the stuff that's been happening since the last time because
Yeah. I wanted
you.
to I meant to go back and listen to the first one just to see like how much has changed.
Oh yeah, well, because I know like from the last time I had seen you right at Invictus, which was
Mhm.
like the outdoor event that we were at.
Oh my
You had did
gosh.
like I mean you've been around like I mean not just like H2O, but then you've also been you're on AEW like doing
Yeah.
dark.
This time last year actually.
Yeah, so I was like, there's
Popped
been a
up on
lot.
my memories today. I was like, "Oh, take me back."
It was something it is crazy to think about like how far like you travel when you look back at your journey. I know for like me, this time last year or not this time in 2020, I think I had wrestled like my fourth and like last match of
Really?
like the year. Yeah, so I had started in 2020,
Yeah,
and
what a year
what a
to
what
start,
a
huh?
moment to pick. Yeah.
Oh man.
And I remember like questioning myself about it because it's like here's 2020, right?
Mhm.
And I start the show off, and I start the year off training for like the first 2 months like super hard. Every week I'm like in a
Oh,
ring, like
oh,
bumping and
oh,
learning.
here comes my
Hey.
dog. Oh my God. Peter, no, I'm so sorry. Pete, you
And
gotta sit
then
down.
but
You
that's
gotta sit.
that's the
There we
beauty
go.
about our dogs. Our dogs like I don't care. I'm just gonna come hang
Oh
out
my
right
God,
here.
no cares in the world. You're just stepping on my stomach here. I need you to here. We'll cuddle, but I need you to not step on the headphones. Okay, got
But
it
yeah,
under
so
control here.
so 2020 happens, right? And then I remember like the pandemic happens and there's a shutdown. And then I was questioning myself. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be for me. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe, give it the college try. And then we got back right in May and we started training again. And then like
Hmm.
I took a step back and I was like, this is probably not working out for me. I was like, I might just like hang this up.
Did
And
you
because
did
of
you think that because of the pandemic, or that just kind of didn't help things?
Yeah, it didn't help things. So like we were
Mm.
coming right out of the pandemic, and I was like, I just don't think this is gonna work out because like I took a step back in a practice match, but
Uh,
because of Mad Max Morrison, right? He was like, don't quit. He's like, you just got to keep pushing forward. I was like, yeah, bet. I'm gonna do what he said. I'm gonna keep pushing forward. And
hmm.
then I'm like 3 weeks from like debuting in my first live crowd match because my first match was against uh, Big Trouble Ben Bishop.
Oh,
It
that
was
was
a
your
taping.
first match?
Yeah, it was a taping too for
Wow.
C3W. And
Okay.
so I'm getting ready to go do a match in front of a live crowd for the first time, and I tear my abdomen, and I was out for 12 weeks.
How? How do you
uh,
tear your abdomen? Oh.
yeah, so because we talk about all the time, like wrestling is tough, right? But
Uh-huh.
it's always like the dumbest things that you do that you get
Yeah.
injured on. And I actually tore my abdomen doing a 3/4 roll, and like I hit it wrong, and it just yeah. So I ended
Oh,
up getting like
wow.
a
I guess
sports
that's why they
hernia.
have us do them, you know?
Yeah, to learn how to do them properly. Yeah, and I hit it, and
Oof.
the one time I hit it, I was like, "Yo, it just didn't feel right," and so I hit it again, and I felt it tear, and I was like, "That was it." So I was out for I couldn't stand up, I couldn't sit down, I couldn't walk, I couldn't lay
Yeah,
down,
what do
like,
you
everything
do?
hurt. Yeah,
I bet.
and then so I remember my surgeon, like, they were thinking I might have to get surgery, and then my surgeon looks at me, he's like, "Nah, dude." He's like, you're already healed." He's like, "You might
Oh
have to,
my
like,
god.
take a couple weeks, but you're"
Yeah.
and this was, like, 6 weeks later, and he was like, "You might have to take a couple weeks, but yeah, you're good." He's like, "You'll be fine. There's no, uh, how do you say, everything was just, like, equal." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like,
Oh,
"Okay."
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, the right word. Or say someone you put it in a comment below, somebody. But anyway, uh, so,
I can't even
uh,
imagine how they would do surgery on
so it was an idea that they were gonna have to push, like, the muscle back in and then put, like,
that.
a mesh yeah, put a mesh,
Oh
top over
my
the top.
god.
Yeah, but
You said
fortunately,
I'm
it
tough. I
it healed
couldn't
up.
do that.
But, no, so then I got back in, I finally had my second match, which my first match was against Ron Holiday, my second match was with Ron Holiday and Darius Carter.
Wow. I did
Yeah.
not know this.
Yep, and then I think my last match was, it was like a battle royale, and, like, then that was
Okay.
it. And then, uh, I just kept training, and then
Mhm.
throughout all the winter, and then in May, I got back in and had some shows, and then for, like, the rest of it, I just went off, so
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
but
glad you stuck with it, huh?
yeah, and then you took, like, a small break for a little bit too yourself, right?
Yeah, back in like 2018, 2019. Yeah.
So what was the because everybody, we had like the burnout thing that goes on and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But what was the thing for you that made you like, hey, let me take a step back from this and put it in its place and then like get back to it.
Yeah, so it was definitely a lot of the burnout, and not to like bring the vibe down or anything, but my oldest sister actually ended up passing away.
Mm,
And so I just sort of was like, you know what? I need to just stop and kind of take a step back and pause and reflect, and just take some time for myself and my family. And then being away kind of gave me that, I don't know, just I was rejuvenated. And like, I hate to say that because, you know, my sibling passed away, but it ended up being something, it sounds so selfish, but it ended up being something that like I needed.
yeah,
And just ever since then, I was like, I don't think she would have wanted me to kind of use that as an excuse to stop wrestling. So that's sort of what got me back into it. And I was like, I can't live my life just being sad.
yeah.
So I just kind of said, honestly, screw it. And I'm just going to go as hard as I can now and see what happens. And I mean, blessing in disguise. I'm glad I did.
So I think that's important. Like, is like you had like a driving factor, like you said, like
Hmm.
your sister was like your driving factor to like, hey, like I took some time off, now I want to get back into it. And I think that
Mhm.
someone use this as my motivation. And I had the same instance happen with me too, because like my best friend in high school, um, he was actually so allegedly, we're gonna go with that, okay?
Mhm.
Because I don't want to get sued, and I don't need the cops to come like knock on my door and be like, "What do you know?"
Yeah.
Allegedly, but someone had
Cover your own arse.
yeah, someone had put fentanyl in his beer, and he overdosed, and he died,
Oh my
and
god, that's awful.
and
That is
so
awful.
him and myself, right? We always it was the big joke between my boy Joseph and I, right? He was like my brother.
Mhm.
And Joseph and I, we always chose different paths, but we were like so tight. Like people would we're always around each other. So I always made fun of him and told him that his best 4 years of high school was in eighth grade because he repeated the eighth grade 4 times.
Legit
Yeah. He was a grade
happens.
he was a grade ahead of me, then he was in my grade, then he was a grade behind me, and then he was in my sister and his little brother's, grade,
Oh my
and
word.
so it was
Shh.
so funny. Uh, but then, like, I continued with school, he didn't. I got into wrestling, high school wrestling, he didn't.
Oh, you did
Uh
high school wrestling. Wow.
yeah, and so he wanted to do wrestling too, but then he was just like, "Whatever, I'm just gonna drop out." But then like he loved pro wrestling. We both love pro wrestling. He wanted to be in the military. I ended up being in the military. So pro wrestling to me was like, well, I want to do pro wrestling too, and I've always wanted to
Mhm.
be a pro wrestler. So I'm gonna, Joseph was kind of like the driving factor. So when he found out right before he passed away that I was in pro wrestling, he was like, "This is great." He's like, "You gotta do it for as long as you can, Cliff." And I was like,
Aw.
"I got you, bro." And then
Yeah.
like only it was weird because like uh not that I would bring the room down either, right? But
I know. It's
I
got
think this is like
heavy
the first
quick.
time. Yeah, this is the first time I've shared the story on here.
Oh wow.
He called me like a few weeks before he passed away. He called me, and whenever he used to call, he'd always be like, "Hey, what's up, Cliff?" Or he's like, "Hey, what's up, dog? What's going on?" And this time when he called me, he was like, "Hey, bro, I just want to say I'm sorry." And I was like, "Hey, yo, first of all, you've never called me this way. What the
Mhm.
hell's going on?" And he was like, I just want to make amends for all the stuff that I did. And he's like,
Wow.
I'm very happy for you and the life that you're living. He's like, I just think some bad things are gonna happen. And I was like, nah, bro, like you be all right.
Oh my
And then like,
gosh.
him and I talked for like an hour.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, the only time you're gonna ever get to meet my daughter is when you're cleaning up or you're getting clean. And
Mhm.
that crazy enough, he met my daughter, and then like
You
3 weeks
did.
later, like he was taken.
Wow.
But yeah, he became my driving factor too. Like it was
Yeah.
like I got to keep going because like this was my brother. He's very proud of me. He was super excited that I was in pro wrestling. So
Yeah.
I understand your driving factor too. So I'm right
Mhm.
there with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you have that sort of closure?
No, not yet. And
No.
I say that because I haven't. So he lives in Nebraska, right?
Okay.
And I that's where I'm actually from. I know we haven't
Really?
really,
Oh
yeah,
my
we haven't
god.
really ever talked about that either. So for you guys get to see our conversations normally how it would look like, like while we're sitting there talking. But yeah. So I'm from Nebraska. I was born in Colorado Springs. My dad was military, so we kind of moved around from place to place.
Oh,
And then
runs in the family, huh?
yeah, so yeah,
My
exactly.
other sister was in the army, so
Nice.
we kind of
Uh,
like have parallel lives here.
Yeah. So Joseph, he lived out in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, which is where I claim as my hometown. And yeah, so I haven't gone back to go say goodbye. So I don't
Oh,
feel like I have
okay.
that closure just yet, but
Mhm.
I do like a lot of the stuff I do, the goofiness that's inside of me, like those are just stuff that like him and I would do, like when
Yeah.
we are in the dark arts or in the backyard, as most people would know it. But yeah, that was our thing. So we'd always just be just giant clowns and stuff like that, have so much fun. So yeah, it's definitely a trip to know like, hey, this was something that he was definitely gonna enjoy and something that I enjoy
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess for like all intents purpose. Really, the name of this show is now entering 201, where like one of my favorite things to ask. So let's just say because I'm actually going into my 5th year this January, right? And I love
That's
asking people,
crazy already.
you know, and I ask people, like let's say like you're backstage, right, and you're like talking to somebody, and they come up to you, and you're like, hey, um, how long you been doing this, right? And they tell you like,
Oh
oh,
gosh.
I'm going like this year. Like, what are your expectations? Like, what are you looking for from that person that would indicate like, all right, this person's kind of like on track?
Oh gosh, wow. Huh, I've never really gotten this question before. So like you mean in the sense of like how their trajectory is going?
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it though is like, because like there's certain milestones, like when you're raising a kid, right? And I'll
Mhm.
talk about this on Go to Your Corner, which you guys will be able to see sometime in
Gotta plug
either
that in.
December or 2024. Plug for that. But like when you have kids, right? Like you have like this trajectory. It's kind of like with dogs as well too, right? There's like a trajectory that you're looking for. So I guess for like wrestling, the way I think about it is like, all right, I'm in my 5th year coming up. There should be some expectations of like, all right, I expect this person to be able to do X, Y, Z, right? And not even
Huh.
just like moveset, but like kind of an idea of where the character is, like
Yeah.
can they talk? What's how they in the ring? Clearly, they have to have their bumps because if they don't have the bumps in their 5 years in,
Mhm.
we got bigger problems.
Oh wow. I've never really thought of it that way. I mean, I don't know if I can answer that cuz I mean everybody's different, you know.
Yeah,
I like I feel like I mean I started training in what 2011 and I feel like just this year alone, for example, I've gotten more comfortable with like doing promos. And that's kind of something that's like huge for me just as a person because I'm actually like very shy and whatnot. Uh, when you pitch the hypothetical situation of like going up to somebody in the locker room, I was like, I can't imagine that because I'm actually very quiet. But just this year alone, I actually enjoy doing promos, whether it's live in the ring on the mic or I'm just sitting in my house, um, and it's taking me years to get there. So I don't know if there's like a set expectation really.
I mean that's fair too, and that's where like this whole show kind of like comes from is like this idea of like, all right, well, like what's that next level look like for that person, right? Like
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
beginning wrestler, because it's like like for me, like I think the one thing that I knew I was gonna have trouble with was like talking, right?
Hmm.
So I created a podcast to
Hey, I
help
mean,
like get me comfortable in front of a camera and just like be able to talk to people about
yeah,
everything.
that's that's a drastic way to do it.
Yeah. Like, I've always been, like, an outgoing person and very, like, friendly with everybody. I
Hmm.
always joke about it, but I always tell people that, like, I don't know strangers. I just know people I haven't met yet, which, I mean, that would be what a
Oh
stranger
God, I
is.
wish I could be like that. I really do.
But it's
I
like
envy
it
you.
yeah, it's just the idea of, like, I like treating people like I would wanna be treated, right? So I'm gonna
That's
talk
fair.
to you the way that I would hope that you'd wanna talk to me, right? If you
Oh,
saw me,
okay.
you're like, "Oh, hey, I know Cliff. I haven't ever met him, but I know of him, right? That's where the idea comes from. But like wrestling wise, like getting in front of a camera and have these kind of conversations and talking and stuff like creating a character, understanding that character, like their
Hmm.
goals, their motives, all those stuff. That's taking me like a while to like develop and understand. But I knew that
Yeah,
that was important too. Like when you're pouring so much of yourself into like a character, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And again, as a person, I still struggle with who am I? So when they say like you have to be you but turned up to 11, that also is kind of difficult for me because I'm like I don't even know who I am. So that's just kind of why I don't know. I like to think I'm pretty oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. See, I can't even think of the word. I'm still just trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, you're in discovery mode. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I
You're like
think,
everybody's
you
favorite
never
Bluetooth.
stop discovering.
Right. That was, like, the one thing that so the fun thing for me and, like, the fun thing for Red Dog, right? Because clearly that guy in a red suit is just sitting right there. He's clearly, like, the big inspiration for who Red Dog is, right? He's just this
Hmm.
mercenary, loves to create a world, and just talks trash, right? Um, but one of the things that I love doing, and this was something that, I got from El Johnny Santos actually. So shout outs to El Johnny for this. But because like we've done this before on the podcast, the 10 count questions. He's like, well, ask yourself 10 count questions, but answer them as a character, right? And I was like, yo,
Oh,
that's such a great
jeez.
idea. So like, I will write down questions and then I'll ask myself like, what would the answers would be for like Red Dog. So
Hmm.
like I know like I was like does he like McDonald's or Burger King? He's like neither. He loves Wendy's. Like
Oh
or he
my
loves Taco
god.
Bell. Like he loves a good
See,
Chipotle.
now I'm like, oh my god, what would Kennedy say?
But it's like fun because once you start playing like this that kind of discovery game, like you start learning like more and like fun little tie-ins like Red Dog's favorite musical artist is the Backstreet Boys.
Okay.
I, I found that out randomly, just like talking about it, and that was just like, yeah, he loves the soothing sounds of the Backstreet Boys. It was like that
You can
sticks very
you can
naturally.
blame him. I mean,
But yeah, no, it's that idea, and then like so one of my friends, one of my friends, actually Chaz, said it that you create this world, and as you create the world, you start to learn more about the not just who like your character is, but then like how would your character wrestle, how would they fight, how would they
mhm.
talk, what kind of speech, what drives them, what motivates them. So like the more you play in the world of your character, the more you'll start to understand it. And that's where like I've been in now is just that discovery of how can Red Dog change different aspects of him and
Yeah.
to fit the situations. And then I realized it's like I just do that naturally now. So I guess that's where
That's
we're
yeah,
at.
I was gonna say, like, you shouldn't have to kind of mold yourself to fit it. Just do what's natural.
Yeah. And that's like the great part of that because at the end of the day, people like just because I see it with you at the open like a lot too. Like people just gravitate to you
I
because
don't know
you're
why. It kind of weirds me out because, like I said, I'm naturally shy and quiet, and like honestly, I grew up with like no friends. So for to just come out to people cheering and like even when I came back to Wrestling Open, when people were like, "Welcome back," I'm like, "What is this?" Like, it's so foreign to me.
they're so excited. Well, it's they've taken you in as like one of their own, so like you're Worcester's
Yay!
favorite dog. But it's
I
cool because like you have that genuine connection with the audience, and they know who you are, and they've probably a few of them probably watch you on IWTV, so they kind of understand like, oh, this is who she is. She's a badass, and she just like
jeez.
beats the shit out of people. She goes toe to toe
Usually
with
I'm the one that
everybody.
gets the shit beat out of. Maybe that's what they like. I don't know.
You just love violence. You're just into it. What what is like some of your like favorite moments that you've had? Let's just go and I could ask that question, but you've been in for almost over 10 years. So it's like now
Hmm.
it's what is the moments that like stand out to you in like the
It's
past
so
couple of
weird
years?
that it's so weird that you asked me that because I literally was like organizing my bookshelf yesterday and I have a notebook on there and it's like kind of my gratitude journal for wrestling and I have like a list of things that I'm personally proud of. One of which was, doing AEW. I know a lot of people kind of poke fun at like, "Whoa, it was just AEW dark," but I never. We all grow up dreaming of wanting to be in like WWE. Like I always wanted to be women's champion. I think deep down inside, like I kind of knew that would never actually happen. So for me to even be in the ring on such a grand stage, like that's a big deal for me. So I would definitely have to be one of them. Another one that like instantly pops into my head is like after my match with Ricky Shane Page, I actually started sobbing just because I was like so proud of it. And a lot of people were like, "Is she okay? Like, is she injured?" But I was just those were like happy tears. So I have had like a lot of personal moments.
Yeah. I think for me too, I know like watching people that were on AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation and even gone into Dynamite and Rampage and Collision, we know there's a lot of them. And then even
Hmm.
watching people on ROH, right?
Yeah, that's the
Seeing so many people
that's
because you
kind
know
of the
what's
next goal.
we so on the podcast we joked that we're unofficially the AEW Darks podcast, right? We're the unofficial because so crazy enough, right? Like I think at the time we had just hit like 250 episodes, and
Yeah.
like 20% of the people that had been on AEW Dark had actually been on our podcast.
Oh wow.
So we
You
had a
guys are the
lot of
stepping
people.
stone.
Yeah, maybe, maybe just low key kind of slide in. Not that I would put anybody out there, but like the Renegade Twins was on here, and now you see them. They're on
Oh,
ROH,
nice.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like it was kind of cool to be able to talk to people and then see them kind of have like their success and stuff, and
Yeah. That's
it
gotta be
was
like a
just
cool
funny.
moment for you personally.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those moments where it's like I look back and I'm like, bro, like I'm so excited and so proud of like how far this podcast has come because this thing only started. It's full transparency, right? It is November for you guys. We're gonna date this right for you guys. It's November 14th, 2023. Our podcast actually, the now entering the ring itself, right, came May of 2020, and
Wow.
we're about to hit 350 episodes
Dang.
like for now engineering, and we're about to hit 500 episodes altogether November 26th. So like yeah,
Wow.
we
That's
have
a
been
lot.
cooking. We've been cooking a lot. Um and I'm super proud because it's like we get to
Yeah,
talk
that's
to
no
people.
small feat.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz I think Chris Van Vliet he talks about a lot that your average podcast only lost 7 episodes.
Wow.
7. Like, when you think about that, that is insane, right? Because it goes
Yeah.
in what's called podcast fade, right? Where, like, people are just not they're like, "Alright, well, the first episode, we're, like, all fired up about, right?" And it's like,
Mhm. You're all
we're still the
gung
same
ho.
way. Then, like, the 3rd
It's like
episode, you
wrestling
realize
training. You're like,
yeah,
ah.
and then the 3rd episode, you're like, "Oh, I'm not really getting that many listens to you, but I'll still put another episode out." And then by episode 7, you're like, "No one's listening to this." And nobody
Mhm.
was listening to us. But I was like, "Whatever, I don't care. I just love doing this podcast
Yeah.
and
I
doing
mean,
this
hey,
show."
as long
So
as you're having fun. And I know that's
exactly.
kind of cheesy, but like that's my main goal in wrestling is to have fun. Because if you're not, then like, why are you doing it?
Why are you
Why are you
exact
doing
I
it?
think about it all the time, like, why are you here? If you're miserable and you're not happy and you're sitting in the back and you have this negative attitude, why are you there? Like,
Mm-hmm. Like you don't have to
nobody
be.
likes yeah, nobody likes that person. No one wants you to be the negative Nancy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh my
So I
goodness, my
definitely
dogs.
I definitely
So
think
sorry.
about that a lot. And then, one of the other things that, like, I think about, though, is that, like, you know, learning so much from like all these people that we brought on the show, right? You to not that I would name drop, but you guys can see it on our show though. We've had, Shane Taylor has been on our podcast. We've had Chris Van Fleet on the podcast. We've had Flip Gordon, yourself, right? And we've had the Renegade Twins. We've had Willow Nightingale. We've had, so many cool people come through and talk to us about like their experiences and how they got through things and like how they dealt with this or dealt with that, right? And it's just fun to hear everybody's experiences, and then it just genuinely we just get to have so much fun just having a cool ass conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But
And
I
like
guess
it's cool to again going back to like growing up and having no friends. It's because, I couldn't really connect with anybody because not many people liked wrestling. So, I mean, when you're fully immersed in it, it's almost like overwhelming, how many people are in wrestling and like it. But I mean, yeah, it's all about making connections.
yeah, this whole networking thing, it's not it's crazy because I think like the military, like just being a military brat, right, kind of prepped me for it because, and I've told my daughter this, and I think I've shared it here on the show too a couple times. But I had 6 different schools in the first 6 years, right, because we're
Wow.
moving a lot.
That's
Uh,
rough.
Yeah, so I've learned to make friends pretty quickly, and then, if
Teach me your
relationships
ways.
yo,
I went to
we
the
had
same school all my life and I had like no friends.
you but that was, like, the one thing I said to my, I actually so I said it to my wife, right? Like, I wanted that for my daughter was I wanted her to grow up in, like, one school system with a bunch of friends, right? Because I think that's so important in life is to be able to have, like, that solid base. Because at
Yeah,
the
that
end of the day
stability.
yeah, because at the end of the day, right, if you ever leave, right, and you go somewhere and you come back, like, you're gonna catch up with those people like nothing's ever happened, right? Like, you've never
Hmm.
missed a beat. And I know my wife has those friends, and even her college friends, she does that, right? And so for me, like, I have my friends back in Nebraska that I could always go back to and just talk to
Yeah.
and just have fun with, right? But it's because of my wrestling friends, like Chaz, and then one of my friends that's in the military too. His name's I'm gonna call him Chris because if I use his real name, he'd be pissed. But Chris, I can always go back to Chris and talk to him, and he kind of relates where I'm coming from, just based on the enthusiasm. But there's other people in the wrestling business that I can always go back and just talk to and just relate with because they understand the world that we're in. Like it's
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
it's so crazy. But it's the idea of being able to network quickly and gather up as many connections as possible just to see like where everything's going to lead. And I think that's important. It's just like it goes back to just, you know, being genuine, being who you are and just being open to having conversations with people and listening.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like I said, that's something I'm still working on.
And it is a thing that takes lots of practice. I definitely understand because it takes a lot of practice, right? And those people who are always like one of my things. Okay, let me be honest. One of the things I can't do, like one of the things I should say I can, right? I always say that. So being a personal trainer, I say that to my clients. I was like, there's no. I always tell them, you're not an American, you're an American. Um, it's so cheesy, but it gets them through the
No, I love it.
workout.
I'm
But
stealing that.
one of the one of the things that I'm working on right now is just talking to people about getting on their shows, right? I want to have a connection with people. So the first thing I always do is I always offer the podcast. Hey, by the way, I'd love to be able to promote your show, promote your promotion. Would you come on my podcast? And then usually by then it's like, yeah. And then from there I'll be like, by the way, I'm a worker as well. So can I, and then that's we're having a connection talking about their
Gotta
and
slide that in there.
yeah, but I think
No, that's smart though.
well, one of the sneaky things that I love asking, right, is what do you look for in a worker when you bring them on, when you want to
Oh,
bring them on your show?
okay.
Because then at
Okay.
that point, now I'm gonna match your energy with what I'm thinking about, and then try to make something work out. And I think that's such a great thing to think about. Is like, okay, cool. So like for instance, this last weekend I was in Pennsylvania, right? And I was working at a show called SWA. It was their
Okay.
25th year anniversary show, 20th year anniversary. Sorry, TJ. Um, but we we had such a great time. But because of my connection with my trainer Sickened, right? He got me linked up to with TJ. And because I was able to establish a friendship with TJ, and then when him and I talk about wrestling and stuff, he's always coming at me with like, "Well, this is how I would see you, and this is what I think that you should do, or you should do this and work at this and do this." And it's just led me to more connections and like how to evolve my character. But more importantly, if a promoter comes to me and they're like, "We don't know what we're really looking for, but this
Mhm.
ain't it," I'm like, "Wait, okay, so what are you looking for?" And then
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
mold this to that.
Sometimes it's just like, just tell me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
what am I
just
doing
being
wrong?
open, to their input.
Yeah, and I would love good like listen, I hate getting criticized, but I love good critiques, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like
No, totally does.
you can't be like, "Well, you suck." Okay, well, what can I prove? I don't know. Okay, well, you're now invalid, right? But if you came back to me and be like, "Hey, I think that your character needs a little cleaning up. What are you looking to do, and exactly how do you want to get there?" And I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, well, first of all, great
Yeah.
critique. I need to figure
I
that
know,
out
right?
now.
Like, let me just internalize that. But
Just
then
gotta
it's like
figure.
you're glad they said something because it means they care, you know?
Yeah,
They didn't care, they would just be like, "Oh, no, you did great."
and it's one of those things too where I think I look at people, and that's one of my favorite things because I want everybody to be okay. So that this is kind of selfish on my part, and this is kind of the selfish thing I do. So somebody out there, feel free to take this, and Kennedy, you might want to too. But I love getting people to tell me what they will think is the best route because one, they might have a valid point, but two, if they don't, at least they feel heard, and then it's taken into consideration. Like everybody talks about like take all advice, but you don't have to use all advice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things I love doing was like I'll ask questions. I'll be like, "Hey, what do you think I need to improve on?" And it makes you them invest in you. So therefore, if you do succeed at something, they had a part in it too. So then you can always come back and be like,
Oh.
"Hey, like thanks for that piece of advice. Now can I use this on your show, or can I do this here?" And typically it
Oh
works
my
out.
god, you have this all figured out.
Yeah, I've been working on this for a while. Like to be fair, like I've been reading like I don't want to say I've been reading a lot of self-help books, but right now, the book Be Like Water, the Bruce Lee book,
Okay.
by his daughter Shannon Lee has been like helping me out a lot. So I've
Yeah.
been like learning. And then I'm a huge sports junkie, so I love this book called The Black Mamba Mentality, which is all about Kobe Bryant and I've been reading that, so I've been like trying to like branch myself out. But yeah, it's like
Eh,
I want people to invest in me just like I'm investing in you. Like
yeah.
I love wrestling. Like I love this thing, right? But more importantly, I also want to get better in it too. So if I don't ask how can I get better, how can I get someone else to invest in me if it doesn't seem like I'm trying to invest in myself?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's funny that like most of the hurdle is just speaking up and asking those questions.
Yeah.
You just
But it
gotta
always
sometimes you
makes
just
me
gotta swallow
nervous.
your pride.
It was see, but that's where my thing is. Is like it's always tough to be like, I gotta send this email out. Uh,
Hmm. Oh,
just
I
can't,
just
man.
if I have to send something, I send it and then I throw my phone.
I think about like, cause like one of the things that I always have difficulty is it's like I see there's a wrestling promotion I want to go work at, but I'm like, mm, who do I talk to? And then you're like in that
Yes.
email, and you're like, I don't know what to say.
Yep. Yep. And I've been told before, like, what's the worst that can happen? They're gonna say no. And like that never really I just don't like that saying, but
Yeah,
someone put it differently. They said if they're going to say no, like if you don't ask, it's not gonna happen.
right.
But if they say no, it's still not gonna happen, but at least you know. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, why didn't you like put it that way before?
Well, like I think for me, what it is, right? And a good friend of mine, Eel O'Neill, said this.
Hey,
Um, yeah,
we love him.
I love Eel, and Eel said this to me, and it like, and I it woke me up like I've never imagined. Right? He goes, so he's like, imagine, right, that you're looking at Netflix, right, and he's like, how many titles are you actually reading through in Netflix? Probably none, right? But if somebody came to you and they told you, "Hey, you should check out this show on Netflix," what are you
Oh
doing?
my goodness.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
how
he's
I
so
did it
right.
too. So I was like, "Yo," that's why I focus so much on networking, but then the problem is I forget to go back to those people to say, "Hey, can you put a word in with this person for me?" And I forget that like I worked my ass off to build up my network
Hmm.
so I could do that. Just and be like, and it's not even like, "Hey, tell them they should put me on my show." No, I'm always like, "Hey, just get me in front of them." That's all I
Okay.
need. I just want the opportunity. Because at the end of the day, if they tell me no, hey, cool. I asked you face to face. You said no. But Eel saying that to me, I was like, oh, I don't read anything on Netflix.
I don't
It's
read.
legit all suggestions.
Yeah, I usually just look at the pictures, like whatever the preview is.
You judge a book by its
Oh.
cover. It's fine.
Oh my gosh,
That's what a
there's
lot of
so
people
much
do.
to this. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, guilty.
It's no, it's what was it? So I have a friend. I've had him on the show. His name's Isaac Wells. He's a voice actor, and he does the Skeletor memes. Like, oh my god, they're so great. But yeah, one of the Skeletor memes was love at first sight is judging a book by its cover, and uh, and I
Oh.
love it, and I think about that all the
I can
time
just like picture it in my head right now. Is
because
that
he
the
does
one
the
where he like
voiceover
runs
too.
away after?
Yes, yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
I love
So
it.
that's him. So he'll be like, remember, falling in love is it falling in love
At first sight
is
is
judging a book by its cover until we meet again, and then he goes off, and I love it.
Oh,
It's my favorite. But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like I forget that like that, and this goes back to like networking, right? Like I forget that like networking is so important in this business,
yeah. Oh, but
but
there's
then
so much to it.
also remembering to like utilize that network when
Yeah.
you need it, right? Because that's how you get anywhere. And I think about this podcast because this is how I essentially made a lot of my connections was on this show. And then thinking about outside of that, like, oh shit, like I need to get these guys to just at least put in 2 cents, right? Just,
Mhm.
hey, you should at least check this guy out or at least talk to him, get a conversation with him, get to understanding who he is. Cause there are some people out there who know who I am and they're kind of just like waiting. I don't really know if they're like waiting for a spot or waiting to see more footage of me like in the Northeast, but there's been a few people who've like been like, yeah. They're like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. And I'm like,
Oh,
all
that's
right,
always
cool.
the worst. It's like you run the thing. What do you mean I'll see what I can do? You can do whatever you
yeah,
want.
it's one of those like it's one of those things too. Like I come to
Oh
understand
no.
because in the military we joke about it all the time, where it's this hurry up and wait process, right? Like
I
you hurry up to
hate
get there,
that.
and then
I
you have
am
to wait.
so impatient. Oh, is that how the
Yeah,
military works? Because I could never do it.
that is that is 100% how the military works. It
Oof.
is always like, hey, by the way, we need you at the hospital at 0800 hours for your shots. You're like, all right, cool. So you show up, and it's like
Oh, we're not ready for
nine
you yet.
o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you're still in the waiting room. And you're like, "Oh, what are you here for?" I'm like, "For my shots." Like, "You got your paperwork?" I'm like, "Yes." Like, "Oh, when did you turn it in?" At 7:55 because that's when you guys wanted me here. It is like, all right, well, yeah, they should be ready in like 20 minutes. And it's like an
Oh my
hour
god.
later, they finally show up. They give you a shot.
Oh
Like, oh,
man.
you already had the shot before. I'm like, damn it.
You didn't even need it in the first place.
I really wanted to be here.
Oh god.
But yeah, it's a thought process. And then like, it was funny because like I had said something uh on the show too where it was like like if you stay ready, you don't ever have to get ready because you're so but that's the problem with the mindset of like a military person too, is that we're like always on and then
Mm-hmm.
we're always waiting. And then like I'm just sitting here, I just think about like Liam Neeson and like waiting in what's that movie? Taken, where he's just
Oh
sitting on
yeah.
the phone with the guy. He's like, I developed a specific type of skills, so I'm just sitting here waiting on the
I will find
phone.
you.
I will just wait here on the phone patiently until you at least respond to me. That's me. I just
That's
the
funny because
big
that's actually me, like right now. I like sent a Facebook message earlier. I'm like, just a heads up, my phone is at 7% because it dies
oh
so
yeah,
freaking quickly,
that's
and I don't
crazy.
know if I will get good sound if I plug it into the charger. So,
Oh well, that's all right. I mean, it is what it is. But no, so then we just take this over to the next section, right? So what takes over? We did this before, but it's not related to 10 count questions. We call this pin, submit, and DQ. So this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off
God.
three. It's 3 rounds, 3 wrestlers or 3 people, right? 3 entities. And then you got to pin one, submit one, DQ one.
Okay.
All right, so let's
Oh
go.
my God,
Which
this is like F Mary Kill.
yeah, essentially that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Whew.
So we'll throw on Athena,
Okay.
Camille, and let's go with Charlotte Flair.
Uh. Okay, I think I'd have to say pin Athena, submit Charlotte, and then what was it? DQ? DQ?
Uh, yeah, DQ. Yeah,
DQ, Camille.
yeah. This is good
Yeah.
choices. Let's go with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, or the three heads of the Justice League.
Oh God, I love Batman. Uh, how would I DQ him? Wouldn't he have to? I am reading way too far into this. Okay. Oh my God, I don't know. I guess pin Superman. Maybe submit Wonder Woman. That would be kind of
That
cool.
would be cool.
And then just DQ Batman.
I like it. I
Which
like
means
it.
he gets the win, right?
Yeah, I mean,
If
essentially.
you DQ. No, because he's disqualified. Oh, either way, he'd
I
kick
mean,
my ass afterwards.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've seen you take some pretty gnarly bumps. I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to
Yeah, I
handle
could
it.
take the
So,
beating.
yeah,
Also, if my phone cuts out on you, I swear I didn't just like hang up on you. I'm just like
it's fine.
watching the battery drain.
Okay, last but not least, the last three, right? So we're gonna do Ahsoka, the Mandalorian, and Luke Skywalker.
Oh God. Um, what is the first one?
The Mandalorian,
And Luke and who else?
Ahsoka. I don't know
Who's
if you saw the
Ahsoka?
you haven't seen the Disney show with well, it's actually the Clone Wars as well. It's Anakin Skywalker's Padawan.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I caught a couple episodes of The Mandalorian when it first came out, and then there was like the one with Cassian from Rogue One. I meant to get into that because I like him.
Yeah.
Anyway, that wasn't the question. Oh God. I don't know. Um, um, maybe just pin the Mandalorian. I don't want to like damage him too badly because doesn't he have like a baby to take care of?
Yeah,
um,
Goguru. Yeah, the
yeah, that thing. Submit Luke, I guess would be kind of cool. He
yeah, there you
submitted a
go.
Jedi, and then DQ the other one.
Ahsoka. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
If you get a chance, okay. So as my recommendation, right? Because like in Netflix, right? I would definitely go check out Ahsoka
Oh
because
my god, it's all coming together.
yeah, Rosario Dawson is such a badass in that, by the way. Uh, but last thing I'll have you do, just let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you.
Okay. All right. We're on 3%. So I got this is like speed round. Okay. So, and then I never know. Instagram, because they're all different. Instagram is the Kennedy Copeland. Twitter is Kennedy Copeland, but wherever the E's are in my name, they're actually threes. I swear I wasn't like copying Becca. It was just it was just when I was trying to make my Twitter at the time, like every username I wanted was taken. And that's pretty much all I use. I mean, I do have a Facebook, but I don't really like add too many people on it because I'm usually just shit posting on it. So it's
Nice.
irrelevant.
Well, there you go. She gave you all the handles. You guys heard our conversation. We're probably gonna talk more offline
Yeah,
after
we
her
got to
phone. We
do
start like on.
more. I
Oh
charged my
yeah,
phone, it just dies so quickly.
it is. It is what that tends to be the
We'll
world of
have to have a
technology.
part three.
Hell yeah, I'm always down for that.
Heck
But you
yeah.
guys know, do tune into the next episode and be there, or you're really just waiting for this episode to end. You're buying all of our merch. You're following us on all of our social media platforms. You're doing all that cool stuff. Telling your friends about us. Telling your enemies about us. Telling your dog about us.
Network.
Telling about everything about us. Or you're really just gonna wait for this episode to end, choosing, listening to the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to.
Hey.
Kawaii. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3countpod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3count podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So, show us some support, please.